Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome back to Sorcerer Dave's Flying Circus, where we provide you with only the very finest in tutorials about pretend aeroplanes today, as it turns out. So, this is the third attempt at recording this, by the way. The first time I accidentally streamed it to Twitch instead of recording it, and the second time I ran out of hard drive space while recording it, so third time's a charm. Let's do this. One of the most frequently asked questions I get is, how do you set up Concorde? How do you get flight plans loaded into it, and all of that sort of thing? How do you flight plan for it so quickly? Well, today I'm going to show you the way that I do it. Now, Concorde's a very complex aircraft. It's a very unique aircraft, and therefore the way that you tend to plan flights for it is a little bit unique as well. It's not like your average plane in flight sim. You can't just load up SimBrief or PFPX and just have all the work done for you, unfortunately. There's two ways to do it. One is the proper way, which is by using a program called Concorde Performance System, which is free and you can download it, and it works like a version of something like PFPX, and it will plan out an entire Concorde flight for you. The reason I don't use it is because, one, the software is a little bit glitchy, and two, it takes a very long time to get everything set up using Concorde Performance System. It is fantastic. It will give you takeoff performance data right down to the very exact runway you are using with the current weather info and everything. It will just plan everything down to the most excruciating detail. It's a great piece of software, but as I said, it takes forever to use. If you just want to jump in Concorde and fly it somewhere with a minimum of hassle, CPS is not a very helpful tool. So I'm going to show you the way that I do it, which is quicker, dirtier, and just less precise and more of a kind of this applies the general sort of rule of thumb, and it should just get you from A to B without too much hassle. So the first thing we need to do is we need to get a flight plan in the downloadable sort of FSX/P3D format that you can load into the sim. So what I'm going to use for this is SimBrief, which is a free website that does flight sim planning for you. However, you can use PFPX if you want to, or any other kind of flight planning software you may have access to. The main thing is you need your flight plan in the default FSX P3D format ready to go as a downloaded company route, if you like, if you want to use that term. All this information here really doesn't matter. I will put in Speedbird 29 Charlie as our call sign. We'll depart from Heathrow and we'll go to Paris, so Charles de Gaulle. There we go. It'll fill out a bunch of information for us. Our airframe doesn't matter either. We can just put a 727-200. And there is our route. Fantastic. So, as you can see, it's done everything here. Our total route distance, you may wish to write this down. I am going to do that myself right now, because you will need that, and that's not going to be displayed once you've generated the actual flight plan in any kind of useful format. But the route distance is 207 nautical miles. We will need that later. So we can now click Generate OFP. This will take a couple of seconds to get all of this stuff together and generate everything for you. The majority of what it's making for us, as I said, we are not going to need. As I said, I put in a 727 as the type of aircraft. It doesn't matter. All we need is the flight plan waypoints. So as you can see, it's got all of our stuff in here. So if we scroll down, and this is what we're looking for here, FSX P3D .pln format. So we want to download that. And we've got it. Fantastic. Awesome. So we're done with this, essentially, now. We can get rid of it. And now we need to load up a little program that looks like this. Plan Converter. It's actually got the stuff still in there from the previous attempt at recording this video, actually, so I'll restart it. There you go, it's empty now. Excellent. It's called Plan Converter, and what this does is it takes your default FSX or P3D flight plan, and it converts it into a format that the SIVA INS card reader in the actual plane can read. So what we're going to do is we're going to go click File, Import, and then scroll down to our flight plan, which is the one at the top here. This is the latest one I've downloaded. And there you go. As you can see, that's our entire flight plan loaded in here with all the relevant data that we need. Now, typically in Concorde, you don't actually load your departures and arrivals into the SIVA INS. You certainly can, if you want to kind of cheat. But generally speaking, what you will do in Concorde is you will fly most departures and arrivals off of the nav radios, and if a if an arrival or departure using nav radios is not available, then you will have to request that ATC give you a vectored approach or departure, and they will have to comply with that. They don't have a choice, so don't worry about asking for that. So in this case, what you can do is you can untick all of the waypoints that are part of the Midhurst departure that we've got out of Heathrow right now. So we'll leave in the original airport location in the CV unit. That's fine. That's in there. That's useful if there's an emergency and you have to immediately return to the airport somehow, and it's completely IMC and you have no idea where to go, and maybe your nav radios have failed. You can just dial in EGLL in your flight plan, in your CV unit, and then use it that way. I've used it sometimes to get to airports as well, where I can't pick up the VOR at the airport for some reason. So you can get rid of all of that stuff in there, and then you've got the actual route along with some of the arrival as well. So there you go. You can leave it on if you like, but it will mean that you'll have to do more card switches during the flight, where you load in another card to continue flying the route as per the flight plan, because obviously the INS system can only hold 9 waypoints at a time, so you have to keep loading in plan segments as you go. You already know this if you've done the tutorial for Concorde that comes with the plane, and I highly recommend you do, because that's the way I learned it. I really, really, really do recommend you do the tutorial at least maybe 2 or 3 times, actually. And if you do that, you'll understand what I'm talking about. If not, then you should go do that. So that's good, and now we're going to click Export, and this will want to go to our prepared version 3 SIVA ADEU folder. In my case, it's on drive G. Prepared version 3 SIVA ADEU, and then the file name, it'll just generate by default the ICAOs. You can put it whatever title you like, but we'll leave it as EGLL to LFPG. Save, and then that's done. That's done. If we go to our ADEU folder, you will find it in here along with a bunch of other plans I've got here, like Montreal to Midway, Manchester to Heathrow, so on and so on and so on and so on. In our case, we are looking for EGLL to LFPG. Ignore the 1 and 2 here. They're actually from the previous video, but the one we made today was EGLL to LFPG without a number at the end of it. If the flight plan is long enough to have multiple parts in it, for the cards it will be labelled 1, 2, and obviously the first one you're going to load is part 1. You can double check this by going to the EGLL to LFPG.txt file, which will give you the flight plan in a .txt file, and it will tell you when to load which segment into the CDU in here. And as you can see, you've got all of the things, you've got all the waypoints with the distance and the coordinates, and so on and so on and so on. So there you go. That is your routing setup. That is your inertial navigation system setup, which is the most important part of flying Concorde. That is all there is to it. You download the FSX flight plan, you convert it in the little SIVA tool here, which I will leave a download link for in the down below. I'll put a Dropbox link in the video description. In case, because I don't know exactly where I downloaded this from, and I don't even know if it's still available to download, to be honest with you. It's quite an old tool, but so I will put a link to it in the link, in the description below to Dropbox, and I will do the same for the other thing I'm about to bring up here in a second as well. So anyway, that's our navigation setup. That's our flight plan loaded, and so on and so on and so on. So that's sorted. That's good. The other thing we need to worry about is fuel. So what I used is a Microsoft Excel calculator-based thing here. Don't ask, by the way, why my Excel is in Portuguese. It's a long story. I don't have time for it today. But anyway, so it looks like this. And again, I'll put a download link up for this Excel file here as well. And it's just a little fuel load calculator here. So remember I told you wanted to write down the total distance for the trip? And it's 207 nautical miles. So type that in there, press enter, and that will give us a fuel load of 24 tons. So that's your base fuel load for the trip. Now, that does not include your mandatory reserves of about 15 to 20 tons. And it's worth noting, this only works for supersonic flights. If you're flying subsonic, which we would be in this case if we were flying from London to Paris, you need to take into account that Concorde burns more fuel when it's flying subsonically than when it's flying supersonically. It burns, in fact, about a third extra fuel, I believe, when it's flying subsonically. I have the actual figures down here written in my notepad. When Concorde is flying supersonic, it burns 27 tons of fuel per 1,000 nautical miles, whereas if it's subsonic, it burns 40 tons of fuel per 1,000 nautical miles. So there you go. You need to take that into account. So what you need to do is add a bit extra if you're flying subsonic, or if you have any particularly lengthy subsonic sections of your flight. So in this case, it's given us a base of 24,000. But what I would do is I would add 15 tons to that, which would give us about 40 tons in total. That would be reserve fuel plus this trip fuel. And then I would probably add another 10 tons or so to that, just to compensate for the fact that we're flying subsonically, and probably at quite a low altitude as well if we're just doing London to Paris. So in total you'd have about between, I would say, 50 to 60 tons would be a good ballpark figure for this particular flight. 60 tons is good because that will get you on most short routes, and it doesn't put you over your maximum landing weight, because obviously Concorde is aerodynamically very unstable when it's low and slow, and if it's too heavy, it will just drop out of the sky when you're trying to land it on final approach. So that's kind of important. But yeah, about 60, 65 tons is good for a short trip. That will give you plenty of reserve fuel, and it will allow you to land. It will guarantee, basically, that you can safely land at the other end, as opposed to just dropping out of the sky. So there you go. So that's the fuel taken care of. So once you load up the sim, and you go to the FSLabs drop-down menu at the top, and you go aircraft fuel, and load and stuff like that, that's what you'll put in this case, about 50, 60 tons. That's what you'll use the slider bar in the fuel menu to put in there. Go away. Stupid Portuguese version of Excel, damn it. So the only other thing is real-world routes, particularly transatlantic routes, where SimBrief is not going to be able to generate you a plan that works, because SimBrief, if you tell it to generate you a North Atlantic route, it'll give you a nat track to follow, and it'll probably take you over, if you're starting off in England, it'll take you over Ireland and over Greenland, so lots of bits over land, which in Concorde you're not allowed to fly across supersonically. So, what you can either do is you can use the old plans that the FSLabs Concorde comes with, which are a bit out of date and don't work with current AIRAC data, or you can go to a page online, which I think, if I can just quickly find it, it should... Concorde routes in current AIRACs. I believe this is on the Flight Sim Labs forums. This is a really, really good little resource, this. So let me show you it. Again, link will be in the description below. Concorde routes in current AIRACs. Some intrepid individuals have decided to take a lot of the old routes and convert them into current AIRAC data that will actually work and that you can file. So in this case, you've got London to JFK, London to Washington, Boston, Barbados, so on and so on and so on. And this is stuff you can file online with VATSIM or whatever, and not worry about your AIRAC being horribly out of date and the controller being terribly, terribly confused. In my experience, you can actually file the old original flight plans for Concorde, and they won't really have a problem with it, but there you go. These are particularly important, as I say, because it means that, especially on trips like London to Washington and London to JFK and vice versa, it means that you can file a route that avoids all the land. Basically, it lets you shoot out over the North Atlantic as soon as possible and go supersonic as soon as possible to preserve your fuel economy. And also to avoid North Atlantic tracks, because, in case you're not aware, Concorde was not allowed to use North Atlantic tracks. It had to plot its own course across the North Atlantic separate from all of that, because it actually flew outside of RVSM airspace. It went so high, upwards of flight level 500 and above, up to a maximum of flight level 600. That's technically above RVSM airspace the last time I checked. So it would actually scoot on over the top of all of the North Atlantic tracks and cheat, essentially, is what we're saying. So this, if you want to do one of those flights, this resource is really good. This is what I use whenever I want to do one of those particular flights. For anything else, though, I will just use a SimBrief thing. And so if you want to do one of these flights and you want to get it into the format that works, it's a little bit of a job to do, but essentially what you do is, if we want to go from London to Boston, we'll just take the raw route here, copy, we'll load up SimBrief, we'll go dispatch, create new flight, and what you will do is we'll just go departing EGLL and then arriving KBOS. and then you'll just delete everything in here, and then paste in that raw route data, analyze route, and with a bit of luck, yeah, there you go, perfect. It's drawn it properly down here. So that's what you need to do. And then it's exactly the same process as before. You generate OFP, you download from the bottom bit the FSX flight plan format, you convert it, so on and so on and so on. All of this, I know, probably seems like a lot of hoops to jump through if you're not used to flying this plane. If you're used to just loading up your PMDG 777, downloading a company route, bang, shoving it into the FMC, taking the fuel load calculations from PFPX, and off you go. Yeah, this probably does seem like an awful lot of stuff to do, but trust me, once you've done it a few times, it's a very, very quick, painless process, and as I said, it's still quicker than using CPS, although if you really want to do it properly and have all of your performance data right down to the absolute T, that is what you should use CPS, really. That's what you should be using. The other thing is you want the performance data for all of your bugs and stuff in the cockpit, like your V-speeds and the P7 bugs and things like that. So what you really want to do is, I don't know if this will load up properly. Here we go, right. It's not going to work because we're disconnected from the sim right now, but you want to load up your Concorde X takeoff data calculator thing here, and it'll give you a bunch of drop-downs for an airport here, with also runways to choose from. And basically what I do is, in lieu of actual data for the specific airport I'm at, for example, I flew Concorde into and out of Jackson Hole in the US a little while ago, which is a very, very small airport in the mountains. And what I did for takeoff data for that place is I just used the takeoff data for Edinburgh's runway, because Edinburgh has a very short runway for a Concorde. And that was fine for Jackson Hole, which again is another very small airport. And that's literally just what I do. It's not exact data for the exact airport you are at, but it is close enough. If you're at a short airport, I tend to use the Edinburgh runway data. If you're at a larger airport like LAX or something, I will use, say, JFK's runway data or Heathrow's runway data or something like that. And then you just go takeoff form, which won't work right now because we're disconnected, and then you do send to the plane, and it'll load up all your V-speeds and fuel bugs and things like that you need. And that's basically it. That's everything that I do to set up Concorde very quickly and just go. When I flew the Concorde on Pilot Edge for the stream yesterday, this is exactly what I did. I just loaded this up very quickly, used the card, ADE USEVA converter thing, and we were done. We were sorted. I just put in a ballpark fuel figure that worked for the distance we were traveling subsonically, and everything was fine. We landed safely and soundly in LAX with a decent fuel load, with plenty of reserves, and it wasn't a problem. So there you go. That is the way I set up Concorde in the sim very quickly with a minimum of hassle. And I hope that is helpful to you guys. I really do hope that that's answered some questions, because I do get asked this a lot. So anyway, that's it for now. That's the end of this particular tutorial video. If you've got ideas for other tutorial videos I could do in the future, I am all ears. I like the idea of doing tutorials. I want to be able to impart the knowledge I've gained the hard way, really, through doing Flight Sim to you guys, because when I first started doing all this stuff, there really weren't not a lot of very good tutorials out there. There were a lot of very basic things I did not understand until much later on, simply because there was nobody there to explain this stuff to me. So tutorials and anything Flight Sim related that you can think of, post the ideas from down in the comments below, and I will see what I can do. Because I'm happy to oblige, because honestly I find making these tutorial videos a little bit more enjoyable than just doing the regular A to B flight videos. Actually, I think these are more helpful to people, and it's just nice to be able to give back some of the knowledge to the Flight Sim community that I've got over the last couple of years. So anyway, enough babbling from me. If you've got ideas, post them below. Otherwise, hopefully this video was helpful, and I will catch you next time. So ta-ra for now.